Welcome to A Day in Her Life podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Rinnick, and I'm fascinated by how other women make their days work. I hope everyone's start of school year, general September timeframe is going well. I know a lot of our schedules often get a shift this time of year, so I hope everyone is hanging in there. And I say this every week, but thank you for listening to A Day in Her Life. If this is your first episode, welcome. I am so happy you're here. If you've been listening for a while, thank you. I am so happy that you continue to enjoy the episodes and conversations we're having. I'm so excited for the rest of the year on the podcast, and I have some big things brewing. As always, if you like what you hear, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, share with a friend who you think might also enjoy it, or snap a pic and tag A Day in Her Life pod on Instagram to show how you're listening to the episode. Thank you so much for being here. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you sharing a part of your day with me. On today's episode, I had the pleasure of chatting with Liz Lidgett, gallery owner, art advisor, and mom of two about her days. I have been a longtime follower of Liz on Instagram, and I love the beauty and art that she shares every day. I absolutely loved chatting with her and hearing about her passion for art and creativity. We talk about the ways that Liz prepares for her day the night before, how she prioritizes family time after school in the kitchen in a really unique way, and makes time for friends during lunch. Liz shared some great tips for getting some unfun stuff done when you need to, as well as making time for creativity that we can all use. We discovered that Liz and I have very similar taste in books, and I really hope that she shares pics of her trip to France next year because you are all going to be jealous. Liz is so vibrant, and this conversation was such a blast. I'm still smiling. I'm sure you're going to love it. All right, let's have some fun. Welcome to A Day in Her Life podcast. Today, Liz Lidgett, art advisor and gallery owner, is joining me today to discuss A Day in Her Life. Hi, Liz. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Ellie. Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
I'm really excited. I was telling Liz before we started that I've been a longtime fan of her Instagram and introducing me to lots of different artists and bringing color to my feed, which I really have always appreciated.
That's the goal. That's the whole goal.
So Liz, let's jump right in. Can you set the scene for us and tell us about who you are, what your family looks like, where you live, all those things?
Yes. Okay. So I am Liz. I am turning 38 this week.
Woohoo!
Yes, I'm a Virgo. Anyway, I live with my husband and our two kids. I have a son named Rocky who's 5 and a daughter who is just Josephine, but we call Effie, and she's 3. And we are in the thick of it. We just started school. We're doing all of the things right now. It's interesting, like doing a day in her life right now because everything is changing. This is the first time everybody has to be out the door by 8 a.m. So I'm fascinated by the schedule of things. Must be, again, the Virgo in me. I own an art gallery in Des Moines, Iowa. It's been open for almost 5 years, but I've been an entrepreneur for over a decade. I was an art advisor before I opened the gallery. We work with artists from around the world. We represent 55 artists. We have a commitment to representing at least 50% women artists, which unfortunately is not the standard. Globally, the standard is more around like 14%, which is really unfortunate. So, when Ellie was saying that we bring a lot of color to your feed, that's what I do. I talk about art on Instagram a lot during the day, and then I get to talk with clients and make their homes more joyful and colorful. It's awesome.
I love that. So let's jump right into what your day looks like. So you mentioned things are a little different now that school's starting, but how does your morning start? What does that look like in your household?
Right. Okay. So now that school has started, summer Liz and school year Liz are completely different people. But school year Liz works out 3 to 4 times in the morning. So way before the kids are up. I play tennis. I love playing tennis. I play a few times a week. I play a part of a women's league. And we have a longtime instructor who has been at this club that we belong to for over 40 years. She taught me when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
And now she makes me run around like I'm still 10 years old on the court. And so anyway, I go play tennis a couple of times a week in the morning. And then other times I go lift weights with a trainer because I would not do that on my own. And so then I come back, I, shower, start getting ready, and then it's all about getting the kids ready because they're pokey little puppies.
Mm-hmm.
We do the clothes layout the night before. So anyway, that's pretty much done, but we're getting them ready. We're trying to feed them. We're trying to take care of the dog. We are trying to take care of the cat. We just have this like mass chaos. I love a article. I will stop and read any article that's like, what is somebody's morning like? I'm sure you're the exact same way, right? I mean, this is what your whole podcast is about. I will stop and read that always. And it's always these super successful people, and they never mention getting their kids to school or ready or feeding them. And I'm like, how are you meditating for 45 minutes in the morning? How is this happening?
This is literally how this podcast came to be, because it's the hardest part of my day, getting my kids out the door. And I was wondering, like, am I doing something wrong, or is everyone doing this?
Everyone's doing it. I feel like that's, if I can give you guys anything during this day, is that it is chaotic no matter who you are or what is happening or what help you have. We do some sort of like pre-made breakfast, whether it's like a yogurt or a sliced apple or waffles or something like that. We're not like short order cooks in the morning. It just can't happen. And so both my kids eat at school, so we don't do lunches or anything like that. And then my husband takes my son and I take my daughter, and we are off. And we are out the door by 8 a.m. So that is hard. I think some of the things that is really helpful is like laying out all of our clothes, including mine, the night before. That has really helped like temper expectations of like standing in front of my closet being like, what do I feel like today? What does my body feel like today? It's like, it's laid out. It is what it is. And same for my kids. And then also my husband is the best. And so it's really like it's man on man defense. Mm-hmm. And we're just each taking one and doing our best.
And zoning that one child.
Yes. It's why we're having 2 kids and not 3. So then I get to work, and the first thing I do is have a Diet Coke. It's just the truth. I'm being real with you guys. And so I don't eat breakfast in the morning. And so I just have water, and then later I have my Diet Coke, and I feel great. That's what feels good for me. So it's about like getting on Instagram in the morning. The interesting thing is like that is a huge part of what is my job. And so whether I'm talking on stories for the gallery or for my personal account, or I'm starting to record a reel, sometimes I feel like getting that done first is great. Doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes meetings are scheduled. I try not to do those in the mornings because I think it throws the whole day off. Mm-hmm. I try and do afternoon meetings. Morning is my creative time. And so that's where I feel like I can look around the gallery and see if there's holes or something is sold and I need to install something new and figure out what's going to look good for the day. What can I talk about? Really set the stage for the day. I try to have my to-do list ready the day before. Again, that's like something I do at the end of the day, is preset for the next day. And so that's really helpful. I have kind of my attack plan. We worked at the gallery, we were doing some long-term vision planning, and somebody that we were working with really was like, you've got to have things on your list that are A's, B's, and C's. And if you don't get to your C's, then it's not that big of a deal. But you've this get to your A's every single day or the day doesn't end. And so that's kind of how I try and tackle it. It's like the must-dos, this is kind of like the next tier of, I really do need to get this done within this week. And then sometimes those C's just never happen. I have this list of C's that seems to be going from month to month. And yet life goes on. So maybe they weren't that necessary in the beginning anyway. So then I'm talking with artists. If we're bringing on somebody new, if I have reached out and set up something through Instagram, that's probably the number way I find artists is scrolling through Instagram or other artists that share their work. That's my favorite way to find new artists, is because other artists will say, I respect this artist's work so much that I want my work next to theirs. And that is just like a huge vote of confidence, I think. So I talk with artists. I talk about the gallery with them, what it means to be represented by the gallery. And then my lunch is either sitting at my desk, also working. There's a restaurant next door to the gallery called Clyde's Fine Diner, and they are angels. And I call and they bring it over. So I get to eat with like silverware and a bowl and like the whole thing with my salad. It makes me feel not as tragic about just eating at my desk. It's also like the best way to go see friends. It's harder to do like the happy hours and all of that just because I want to be with the kids. I don't get to see them during the day. So that 5 to 7 time is not for drinks anymore. It's for being with my family. And so lunchtime seems to be the very best way that I can fill my friend bucket. So I try, at least 2 times a week to go have lunch with friends.
I love
Sometimes
that.
work bleeds over into that, but yeah, lunchtime seems to be the fun time. So anyway, so that's great. And we get to catch up on our days, and then I'm back at work, back on stories, talking about artwork. And then we're making sure that everything's getting out the gallery if it's sold that day, anything like odds and ends that absolutely have to happen. And then I'm usually out of the gallery by 4, which means 4 to 5 is errand running or appointments or whatever that looks like. And then we grab the kids and we are doing dinner as a fam. My husband cooks. I do not cook at all, at all. I have no interest. I'm not good at it. I can make about 3 things, and none of them are that great. To be honest. So anyway, so my husband cooks. So he's getting it ready, and I'm just kind of like chatting with the kids, but we're all in the kitchen. I put a sofa and swivel chairs in the kitchen instead of a dining table, so we could all hang out.
I love that.
While he's cooking. We still have a dining room. There's a table somewhere in the house, but we all hang out and we talk, or we're playing games while he's cooking, so he can still be involved and hear all the same things that I'm hearing, and we get to play with him, and we're running around the kitchen counter with the kids and all of that. They're still at 5 and 3. They're still so active when they play. We're trying our best at that time not to do the screens. I am not somebody that is like, my kids can never see a screen. That is just not how I can get through life as a parent, as a working mom. Screens are our friends in some cases, but during that time we try not to. And then, it's like bath time, and our kids start going to bed at 6:45. So we only have like such a small window of time with them. So we try and really make that time count. And so then 6:45 to 7:30 is bedtime. Their doors are shut, and that is when my husband and I can reconnect as people. My favorite thing to do when it's nice out is we go sit outside on our patio, and my husband Nick does the solo stove.
Oh yeah.
I'm a walking advertisement for a solo stove. I think it is the most wonderful thing. It's just like the ambiance. It's so lovely. I just love it. So we hang out there sometimes. Sometimes we watch a show. We're not huge TV people. A lot of the time, I'm also trying to get house projects done. If yesterday night was our example, we didn't eat with the kids. They ate. We were next to them. We put them to bed. Nick made us food. I was going upstairs and downstairs from the garage, spray painting furniture. And so, like every coat, I'd go back downstairs, come back up, have a conversation with him, go back downstairs, spray another coat. So oftentimes that is where I'm like working on something or doing something fun or creative or something along those lines. And then we're both big readers. So we're usually in bed around 9:30 reading, and then lights off around 10:30. And we start it all over.
What are you reading right now?
Oh, I'm listening to, what am I listening to? Oh, Beartown.
I love that whole
Um,
series is so good.
okay, a girlfriend in my book club recommended it. And then also I'm reading the Thursday Murder Club.
I
Have
read
you
that
read?
too. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
okay.
good.
Yes. So I often have a couple of books going. I have to be honest with you guys, it is unusual that I don't have a smutty book going right now too,
Always.
but I love smut
Hmm.
too. And I'm also just getting better about being proud about my smut and not being ashamed. So I usually have a smutty book going too. The funny thing is the reason I'm reading Beartown is that it's this town that's obsessed with hockey. I love hockey smut. And so my
Yes,
girlfriend was like, "What have you read a book that's just about hockey?" And I was like, "I'll try it.
maybe.
I don't know if I'll like it or
I
not."
was literally just talking to Caroline Chambers about this last week because hockey smut is apparently the largest growing
Yes,
sub
yes,
group of smut.
yes. My girlfriends think it's so bizarre. Yes. But I showed them this article. I don't know if you saw it, but there was an actual player for the Kraken in Seattle who had to come out and say, like, please stop sexually harassing me
No.
because, yes, because he's incredibly good looking. And he and his wife were like, please stop harassing me. I'm not the hero in your stories here.
Oh my gosh.
And it was funny because like the Kraken embraced the hockey smut TikTok, book talk, and all of that for a little while. And then he started feeling really uncomfortable, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
And so then they were like, no more hockey smut books. It's just like a whole, it's so bizarre. But the world is so bizarre.
It's so funny, but I was just talking about this because there's something about a romance novel where you know it's going to end happily. Like it's escapism in its purest form.
Yeah.
And because Beartown is
Yeah.
actually a pretty Beartown, that whole series is fantastic, but it's definitely weighs heavier on
Yeah.
you than
Yes.
a different hockey novel you might be
Totally.
reading.
Yes. Right.
I also am all about the romance novels.
Okay.
Always reading multiple books at the same time as well.
Excellent.
Have to have something on
Excellent.
audio.
Yes.
The Thursday Murder Club is narrated by a British woman, so it's very. I could listen to like a British woman narrate
Oh, I'm
just
sure
about
that
anything.
100%. We ran a marathon probably a decade ago, and somebody told me that the best way to get through the really long runs was a book.
Oh.
And so I listened to the whole Harry Potter series. I love Harry
Jim
Potter.
Dale, he's the best
Yeah.
narrator.
But it's like the best, and you get out of your head about how terrible your body feels, and you're just like with Jim Dale, and it's so lovely. It's a great way to spend time.
That's a great one. I'm rereading the Akatar series right now, A Court of Thorns and
Oh,
Roses.
yeah. Oh,
and
yes,
on
yes.
audiobook, it's just, I can do it all the time instead of sit down and read
Yeah.
a tome.
Speaking of my book club, it's called the No Judgment Book Club because lots of women were coming and feeling bad about the fact that they hadn't read the book. But this last month, we did a more serious book, which was 4,000 Weeks. Have you read 4,000
I have
Weeks?
not, but I will put it on my list.
It's great. It's really about how the average lifespan is 4,000 weeks. So why are you spending time on things that actually don't matter when you have a finite time? And when you think about it your life in terms of weeks versus years or whatever, it puts things in a different perspective. So that's one book we read. And then I begged them to read A Court of Thorns and Roses. And all of these women were like, I don't know. And then we have like fairy heads now. Like everybody's like, let's go in the park and be fairies. I'm like, it's the best. Everybody that reads it goes in a little worried and comes out loving it.
And it's so funny how the first book is so different than the rest of the series in a lot of ways because the characters.
Oh, yeah.
And so I actually just recommended a friend to read it and she was like slogging through. I was like, just read the second one. I promise you.
Get to book two.
Get to book two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, I'm glad we have similar
Agreed.
tastes in books.
Yes. Anyway, so yeah, we're huge readers. And so that's how we end the day.
I love that. And you said you get up really early. What is your actual like wake up time usually to get everything in before the kids get up?
Depends on what time the workout is, but sometime between usually 5:30 and 6:15.
So not like 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's manageable time. You sounded like when you were getting tennis,
God.
and I was like, wow, look at you.
No. I play an hour. I work out an hour. I play an hour. So I'm back home by, depending 7 a.m. or 7:30. So yeah, it's No, it's really not that bad. And also, I don't think that 4 a.m. is the morning.
Oh
And I
no,
know a lot of people wake up then, but I'm like, that's still the evening.
I
It just
I
is.
agree with that sentiment. So you mentioned in your day during your work day, you try to have a to-do list
Yeah.
beforehand and try to do your creative stuff during the morning. Is there any other schedule that you try to impose on your day in the gallery as you're working through?
I mean, big things first is always, but I think of creativity in my role as a big thing.
Hmm.
So I think it's unfortunate that a lot of times people feel like creativity is the thing that they run out of time for. But I think you can and should schedule creativity. I think that you don't have to work in an art gallery to be creative. I think any role could be creative, any person can be creative. And it's a muscle that you have to work out like any other muscle and really, really practice. And so, whether it's whatever can get you there. So, like, maybe it's the artist's way and it's prompts, or, maybe it's just like taking time. For me, it's unplugging. When I really have to go be creative and I have to think of something spectacular for a project, I have to go somewhere with no internet. And I was seeing over and over again that I was most productive on airplanes when I
Hmm.
wasn't buying the Wi-Fi. And so, and productive, like getting emails out because no emails were then coming back in.
Yep.
And then also just the creative part of it, of like just being alone with my thoughts. And so that's kind of the time that I'm like, okay, what are the big picture ideas? And that's the biggest thing about my job. I have this incredible team that honestly could run the place without me. But I hope that what I'm bringing to the role is bringing in new artists, bringing in new creative ideas, bringing in new ways to bring artwork to people, to create sales for these artists. That's one of the reasons that I own the gallery, is because I believe so firmly that artists should be able to be full-time artists. It's not a role that, you have to go like shamefully tell your parents anymore. Like, people can be full-time artists and make a great living and have great lives. And I want to be a part of that. So anyway, that's all to say is that anybody can be creative. And so creativity is really, really important to me to get done as one of the first things. And then, it's like kind of going through and like, what are the things I sometimes have these, I schedule blocks of you have to do it whether you want to or not. And so sometimes that's like, going through my QuickBooks and reconciling things before my accountant gets in there, like tasks that I have to do that, surprise, an arty person doesn't want to do. But I kind of like set these blocks of times that it's like, this is the hour and I'm going to set a timer, and you just have to like barrel through it, and you don't get up. You don't get to go do something. This is what you're doing at this time. And the timer seems to help with that. So yeah.
I really like that idea that this is the time and I'm going to tie you to the chair to do it.
Yes. I'm basically handcuffed to the chair. Yes.
You mentioned creativity. What ways do you express your creativities outside of work, or how do you find time for your own creativity outside of work?
It's an interesting role because I represent the artist, right? But then I'm also a creative person and I also create and I'm also an artist. I don't sell my own work, because I think that's a conflict of interest, really. But I like to create, and I think it's really important for me. And I become a happier, better person when I do get to create. So whether it is just running down and spray painting furniture and making something aesthetically beautiful for me, creating space, my home. I love decorating my home. I love thrifting. I love finding like the perfect piece. We just, with my sister, bought a very teeny tiny little lake house a couple of hours away. And so I'm like buying all of Facebook Marketplace right now.
Like,
Yes. Oh God, it's so great. So all of that has been really fun, being able to, that's a huge way for me to express that creativity. And then, it's like, I just, that's kind of like on the micro level. And sometimes, my husband wanted to go out with the guys one weekend, and I was like, you know what? I haven't made any jewelry in a while. I pulled that out.
Mhm.
And, it's just like I try and like kind of do new things and make my brain work in different ways. I love working with my hands. That's the very best thing for
Mhm.
me. But then on like a macro level, I think it's travel and really being intentional about doing some travel, both with the kids and without the kids. And I've tried to schedule that, for work even. We took a group of women to France last year to meet one of our artists. That was an incredibly inspiring and creative trip. And then, we try and get away ourselves to new places. That's the thing that Nick and I really try is that one, we're trying to see all 50 states. And then, really just trying to see new places, absorb new things, eat new food, because anything I do, I like my phone is just photos and photos and photos of
Mhm.
cool spaces, beautiful colors, just interesting inspiration that I go back to.
I love that. Do you have any specific travel plans for the fall into the winter?
Okay, so speaking of our 50 states, we have 3 states left. And those are Idaho, Montana, and Hawaii. So I think we're doing for the fall break an Idaho and Montana trip.
Seems like a good fit to get those two done.
Yeah, we decided that Hawaii should be the
The ultimate
50th
trip.
state,
Yeah.
the ultimate trip. Yeah. So I think that's going to be really beautiful. We did with the kids, we did Oregon and Washington last summer, and that was just phenomenal. We went to Maine a couple of months ago in July,
It must
and
have been
that
the perfect
was,
time for it. Maine in the
oh
summer
my
is
gosh.
perfect.
We went to
Oh,
Kennebunkport and we
it's
rented this little Airbnb, and it's just like
mhm.
mind blowing how wonderful it was. It's like, how do I become a person that gets to hang out here?
Nothing beats New England in the summer. Yeah. I have
Oh my gosh, it's phenomenal. So, yeah, and then next summer we are going to France with a group of friends. Let's be honest here, we're all friends, a little intoxicated and won at an auction a trip to France.
that's amazing.
So we're going to France, and we somehow got it timed, and I went into the lottery system for the Olympics ticket. So we're going to the Olympics.
Oh my gosh, that is
So
a
excited.
dream. That's going to be so fun.
I know, I'm so excited. We got tickets to tennis, which I'm
Oh,
obsessed with, and we get to go do. And then we're seeing beach volleyball.
that's going to be
And
so
then
fun.
I'm just so, so excited. So we're going with a group of friends. There's 8 of us. And then we're going to stay in this French chateau. This is not my normal life, but it is when I win it at an auction.
I mean, that's perfect.
It was for a good cause.
The Olympics are one of my bucket list items.
Me
We also
too.
love
Me
tennis,
too.
and I've been putting myself in every year for the Wimbledon. I've seen the US Open. I put myself in every
Yeah.
year for Wimbledon. Maybe one year
Oh,
I'll get to go. That'll be an
so
amazing trip.
cool. I really want to go to, I mean, US Open's happening right now. I really want to go to US Open. It looks so fun.
It's so fun. My
Yeah.
mom's company, when we were little, my mom's company used to get box tickets. So we always used to
Oh, cool.
go. It was perfect. That's the way to go see any sport, in my opinion. But that one
Yeah,
was,
100%. Anything
was
really is in a box.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
You mentioned taking a trip with your friends on a weekly basis or a daily basis. How do you make time for your friends besides lunches and trips? How does that work out for you?
Since our kids go to bed at 7, we really do try and do bedtime as much as possible on Friday and Saturday, and then we'll get a sitter and we'll go out after they're in bed, and it feels pretty seamless. It's also like the greatest babysitting job in the world.
I
They
know.
have to sit and watch Netflix. But anyway, so yeah, we really do try and get out at least one weekend night to go see our friends. That's incredibly important to us. We have a really tight knit group of friends. They are like family to us. Our kids think of them as aunts and uncles, and some of them don't have kids, and so they have kind of adopted Rocky and Effie as surrogate kids. Yeah, we really do try to see them a lot. And then we also have some of those friends that like to come and like do the family and the bedtime routine because they don't have kids. It's like novel to them. And I'm like, this is my life. And so they'll come and help and read bedtime stories and do all this stuff. It's great. We have an incredibly close group of friends, and I feel really lucky for it. So yeah, so lunches, at least one weekend night. Yeah, it's great.
Do you and your husband go out to dinner often, or how do you, the Solo Stove sounds like a really great place to reconnect, but how do you two
Yes.
maintain your relationship and work on that throughout the week?
Yeah. I mean, our relationship is so, so important to us, and we work at it, right? So, that post 7 p.m., it won't always be that way. But right now, we do actually get some great time to be connected. And if I am doing one of those things where I'm like running around doing a project at night, we try and make the next night more of a time to hang out and be together. Sometimes we both have to work in the evening. We try not to do that the next night. It's just all balanced, right? Like it
Mhm.
may not be balanced within one day or sometimes even within one week, but we want it to feel balanced overall. I think actually Nick and I were talking about this last night is that as I continue to get older, I care so much less about what my life looks like, but how it feels like.
Mhm.
And we work really hard to create a life that feels good to us. And it really doesn't matter what it looks like to anybody else if it feels good to us. And so, anyway, so that's time together. Like, Nick is my best friend. And so, that time we've been together since we met in high school.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, we've been together over 20 years. So it's, longer together than not at this point.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes, making that time is really important. We'll try and do date nights. Every once in a while, we'll go do a staycation and rent a hotel room somewhere in Des Moines. It's just really, I think, making ourselves a priority. It's even like texting. Like, I don't mean to be too sappy, but before I got on, Nick had texted me knowing that we were doing this podcast and said, "I'm proud of you." Just making me
Oh,
feel good before coming on and talking to you. So I think it's just about being intentional and keeping each other top of mind that makes us work.
that's so well said. I love how you stated how your life feels. That's
Yeah.
really important. What is something in a ball you're intentionally dropping or something you don't have time for in your life right now that you're either outsourcing or just not prioritizing overall?
I have learned over time to outsource a lot. I do think of my time as very valuable. And so things like we have a great lawn guy that I've become great texting buddies with, and he helps us. We have somebody come and help us clean the house every other week. So we do that too. I feel like paying a trainer has been incredibly important because it feels like I'm being more intentional with the time.
Hmm.
That's been really incredible. I also love supporting women business owners too. So I'm like, you, we're all best friends now. You're all in my life. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things like that. There are tasks that if I can see that it really is not something that I want to do, puts me in a bad mood, something along those lines. Then I see if we can maybe not do something else to budget for a cleaning lady. That was really
Hmm.
important to me. It's just all about the give and take of things. I drop things all the time. It's what, if you probably have all heard about that, where it's like you have to figure out which balls are glass and which are
Hmm.
rubber. And if you drop the rubber ones, it's not that big of a deal. I do a lot in our community, but I do a lot less now. I will get back to a point where I can start doing more of that stuff again, but that those are definitely had to be rubber balls where I have to look a little closer to home on like what
Hmm.
I can do and what I can impact. It's about making my kids good people, good kind people right now.
Hmm.
And then I'll get to go back out, but I still try and do stuff with the community, but it's just less. So learning to say no. My sister Kate is always like she like walks in front of me when somebody's about to ask me something, and she's like, no, no. So I feel very lucky that I get people to remind me to say no to things too, because I don't always.
You definitely need one of those no people
You do,
sometimes.
you really do.
You mentioned hobbies. Can you tell me about what some of your hobbies might be right now?
Yeah. you guys are going to think I'm tennis obsessed, but during summertime, I am a little. So I play that a lot. I thrift a lot. I love going through Facebook Marketplace. I love creating. I love painting. I mean, reading's a hobby, right?
Definitely.
I am hoping to get back into it this winter, but when I have a little bit more time, last winter, I was taking fencing lessons.
Ooh.
I always had wanted to learn how to fence, and so that was really fun and cool. I was fencing once a week. I was basically Catherine Zeta-Jones. Yeah. So, it's just like stuff like that. I mean, I become sometimes a little obsessed with things for a short period of time, and then like all creatives do. But yeah, I mean, I really do try and do something for myself that is just purely for fun. It is not for profit. It is not for whatever. I think that we live in this culture of the side gig, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is cool and it's great and it's great for creatives. And I am not knocking that. But the other side of that coin is that everybody feels like everything they do also like has to make them money. And I think we're losing some of those like joyful hobbies that you don't have to be the best at, that you don't have to like figure out how to make it profitable, all of those things. Some like fencing, I was by far the worst. I was starting at 37, but it just made me move my body in a different way, and it was interesting to me, and it was making me look at the world a little bit differently. And it was cool.
That's so fun. I loved trying new things like that as well, and like just getting out and doing different things.
Yes.
How do you stay organized? What kind of, you mentioned your to-do list. Do you use digital tools? Do you use paper planner? What's your organization process?
So, one of the apps that has been game changing for us as a couple is AnyList. And AnyList is our house to-dos. It is our grocery list, but it is also where I have gone to brain dump my mental load. And the great thing about AnyList is that it automatically shows up in Nick's app. So I think that I don't want to be completely stereotypical, but overall, in many relationships, women carry the mental load. And so I think of things like Nick is such a 50-50 partner, but there are things that I just am like constantly running through my mind and trying to figure out, like the kids' forums, the uniforms, the dance togs, all of the things and then Nick is more a little bit like, but like, what would happen if we didn't do this? And I'm like, well, the world would not end, but it still has to happen. So we have that conversation a lot. But it was really helpful for me to do this like kind of like mental load list, that even if I'm the one still tackling the project, he is aware.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there has come with that a lot of support and a lot of understanding on both of our ends of trying to figure out, because then every once in a while he's like, oh no, that's so easy for me to do. Why don't I go do that? So that's really helpful that I'm not keeping it in my head anymore, and then feeling resentful or frustrated that he didn't know it, even though I was keeping it inside, which is not fair. So it's like I if I'm sitting and I'm like waiting for someone to show up for lunch or something like that, I just start brain dumping.
Mm-hmm.
Brain dumping is 100% life-changing for me, to get it out as a creative person, to just sit there. And even if I've already done it 2 days ago, but if my brain is feeling really full, then I just sit down and I write down all of the things, everything that's on my mind, and then just getting it on paper, it makes me feel a lot lighter. Also, I have a label maker that I label everything with.
I love that. We also have a running to-do list that I do the same thing of sending everything out on it so that I can at least remember what to talk to him about or when I need to. And it does save that resentment of, how could you not read my mind about that? Like, didn't you know?
It's not fair.
Yeah. And especially with kids this age, I'm sure that all the activities I went through and like put everything on the calendar the other day and was like,
totally. The school calendar. I mean, 2 separate school calendars. sports, dance, all of the things. And I now have such a different, I've always been thankful for my parents, but I'm just like, Mom, what? I mean, and they didn't have these apps and they didn't have this technology. And it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
80s, 90s parents were a little bit different breed though, too. They were like, see you in 2 hours. Call me whenever. And I'm like, can I put an air tag on you?
I put an air tag on my son's like Lovey because I was worried we were going to lose it when we traveled because
Yes.
no one wants that wrath.
No, that's smart. It's just smart.
Awesome. So Liz, where can people learn more about you and follow along?
Oh, sure. Instagram at Liz Lidgett and at Liz Lidgett Gallery is a great place to go. That's where we are every day, talking about artwork and talking about cool artists and bringing some joyful color to your feed. And then lizlidgett.com is our completely shoppable gallery website. So we usually have anywhere from like 300 to 400 works of art for sale on the website at any point in time. And we do lots of fun releases. We do new shows every 4 to 5 weeks. And yeah, we're just going all the time.
I love that. Your website is very easy to use for
thank you. We've really worked on that.
Yeah, like a non-art person. I feel like I could go online
Thank
and
you.
actually buy a piece of beautiful art.
That's so kind of you to say.
As someone who is trying to build up the art in their home and kind of slowly, what is a piece of advice you would give to someone kind of just starting out trying to find art that speaks to them?
Well, first of all, look at as much art as possible. That's a really big one. I think that if you can try and start looking at a lot of artwork intentionally, and then also just trying to articulate to your partner, your friend, whomever, why you like it or why you don't like it. That's almost as important to understand why you don't like things. One of my favorite things to do is to go to a museum. The Des Moines Art Center here in town is a phenomenal museum and it's free. So free date. But we go to the museum and we say, money is no budget. You have to buy one piece of artwork, but you have to say why. And so it's a really fun way to like talk about why you like things, try and articulate them. Don't be shy if you feel like you don't have the vocabulary. Just try and get it out because once you start talking about artwork, you feel more comfortable. And also, finding a gallery or an artist or a designer or a friend who you think has great taste. If you go to a gallery who you trust or you really like their overall style, that's a great way to start because they're already curating things down for you because there's millions of artists in the world and that's wonderful. But to kind of try and look at it through a very specific point of view is great. And there's a lot of galleries with a lot of different great points of view. Ours is very bold and colorful. Others are more muted, more abstract. I mean, it just totally depends on what it is. But yeah, start looking at as much artwork as possible. Find somebody that you trust. And then, start small too. I mean, we have artwork that starts at $200, which I understand is still something to think about. That's an investment. But original artwork is not as expensive as you may think.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to be a millionaire to own it.
I love that. I've also, you have been a lot of inspiration, as I've said, for art that I follow and artists that I follow because I love the bold and brightness that you share.
Thank you.
And then Liz, what's your favorite part of your day?
Right now is when we get the kids after school and learning about their day. That is, it's so interesting to have a 5-year-old in the house because you realize that things that feel so everyday are still so new to them. And 3-year-olds too. I mean, like they're going through their lives doing something new every single day. It's just incredible. And so my son has been learning how to have like hot lunch. They did 2 half days at kindergarten and they had them do dry runs with the just empty trays so they could like I know it's just but he felt super confident when he had food on it then.
Yeah.
It's just like so interesting to hear about like the small mundane things that are so everyday to us but are so new and exciting to them. That's the best. It's just the joy. It's awesome.
That's so wonderful. How has the transition to kindergarten been for him thus far?
Honestly, it's been great. He went to preschool or pre-K at the same school, so he feels comfortable with
Hmm.
it. Lots of familiar faces, all of those things. But now it's full day. We're doing hot lunch. We're doing aftercare. I mean, like the whole thing. So it's a whole new day. We picked him up yesterday because yesterday was the first full day, and I was trying to explain what aftercare was, and all of that. Like we wouldn't be right there as soon as school ended, all of that stuff. And Nick went to pick him up at 4:30 or 5, and Rocky's like, "You're here? I thought I wasn't going to see you until Saturday." And I'm like, "Oh no, you thought we were leaving you at school for the week?" I think I over-explained aftercare.
Oh my gosh, that's so sweet.
And I'm like, "You were being so brave. You thought we were going to see you for a week." Oh man. Anyway, it's just stuff like that. It's just like also sweet and fun and silly. And anyway, it's a great age.
That's awesome. My son, when he woke up on his 4th birthday, was like, I'm happy to be 4, but I feel like I'm 5. Can I go to kindergarten this year?
Oh,
And I was
yeah.
like, no, bud, you got to wait another year.
I know. I know. It's these kids at this age I have friends that have kids that are older that they are a little less interested in their parents. And right now our kids still want to be with us. And I'm like, I'm having these moments on a daily basis where I'm like, bottle this, keep this in your mind because
Hmm.
this is so special right now.
It really is.
Mm.
Awesome. Well, Liz, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast and for sharing a day in your life.
Thanks for having me. This is really fun.